Listen only mode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Before we get started, we're going to just wait another minute for other folks to join us. I have Nick on the line with me here to present the session. Real
Hello,
quick.
Mickey.
Hi, Nick. Good morning. How's the weather in Boston, by the
Good
way?
morning, sir. The weather is frigid. It was, over the weekend we thought, all right, get out the gardening trowels. Spring is here, and we got a whole bunch of freezing snow. I don't know how things are in eastern Pennsylvania for you, Mickey.
No snow, but it is quite frigid. Quite frigid. So I do want to just,
Oh yes.
as we talk, I want to make sure that the folks in the room, if you could just raise your hand or let us know, confirm that you can hear us, do a quick audio check as we wait for the last few folks to kind of join us. I want to be sure that,
For sure.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
important.
also manning the question panel here for you, Mickey. So we
Perfect.
have one hand raised.
Yep.
Thank you, Annie.
Awesome.
Thank you, Christy. We have a
Yep.
nice intimate group today.
I
Annie
like
has
to keep
quickly
it
put her
small.
hand down.
Yep.
Doesn't want to single herself out here. Jennifer, we're still checking to see if Jennifer can hear us. Perhaps she's away from from her screen. And also, Mickey, if I may, I'd like to ask a question. Where is everybody calling in from in the world today? I'm here in Massachusetts. Mickey's in Pennsylvania. Where are you folks in the world today?
Go ahead
Let
and
us know in the
jump
question
in that
panel
chat
of
pane and let us
yeah,
know. Awesome.
yep. We'll use the question panel there, and that way I can respond back to everybody and people can see the answers if we want to share them out there publicly.
Yep.
Christy's in Boston. All right, Christy. Awesome,
Awesome.
awesome. We're out here
Someone
in
else up
Waltham.
north.
Yeah, another Bostonian here, Mickey.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Another
Annie
Boston.
also in Boston. All right.
We could have just done
It's a
this
great little
live in
town.
person in Boston, Nick. We could have just done it from there.
I would love it. I'd love it. I know, Mickey. I know. I mean that we'd love to collaborate and do those. We should just put that on our future calendar there, Mickey, to do that
How
together.
about in November when I come
Awesome.
up for inbound? I come
So
up. We have a day and time around inbound that we can try to do it in person or something like that. We might be able to do something.
that's a great idea,
Yeah.
Mickey. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm up in Boston every year. So, all right. So let's. I don't want to
Awesome.
waste too much time here, and everyone. I think most folks are starting to get here. So let's go ahead and get started, Nick. That way we can try to maximize the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many of you have joined me for a webinar before. This will be the first webinar that Nick and I have done together, and we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, trying to do something together. And so I'm really
Yes.
excited that we could kind of bring this together. But if you've not attended any of my webinars before, you'll learn very, very quickly. I move fast, I talk fast, and I go. And so one of the advantages to having Nick here,
I love
aside
it.
from his role in demonstrating and really showing us some of these emails, is also helping monitor the question pane because I move so fast. It's always hard for me sometimes to see the questions. So, Nick, thank you for that in advance. And speaking of that,
Yes.
so we can get
My
an
pleasure.
idea of who we are, I'm Mickey. I work with Fourth Dimension Partners. I started this practice at the very end of 2010. I focus I'd say 90+% of my work is with higher education institutions, looking at marketing, recruitment, and a little bit of servicing new students in higher ed. I started almost exclusively with adult programs and graduate programs, and I've added on traditional programs in the past couple of years. Before I was a consultant, I worked directly in higher ed, and I've been in higher ed since '98, working with 3 different institutions, most of which was at the last 9 years at Albright College, where I ran an adult program with we had about 1,000 students and 8 locations. And Nick, I'll let you speak to yourself there. But Nick, it's awesome to have you here
Yes.
with me this morning.
It's great to be here and with you all here this morning, Mickey. So, whereas we just heard that Mickey came into this topic from the industry, from higher education, I and IMR kind of came into higher education in the industry from the technology side of things. So I just finished spending nearly 5 years working at HubSpot Inc., the makers of industry leading inbound marketing software. And I actually got to know Mickey during my role working with other agencies that were partnered with HubSpot providing those services. Was very impressed with Mickey's depth of knowledge and really his passion about bringing inbound to the higher education sphere. And after a few years working kind of at the corporation, HubSpot, the software company, I wanted to also jump in and get involved in the services side of things. So I've joined a local agency here that has experience and a passion for helping higher education institutions as well, innovative marketing resources. But nobody has that depth of passion and experience that Mickey does when it comes to inbound. So I'm kind of here to do more of the technology demo side of things, whereas Mickey's going to be leading the charge on some of the content and the strategy for higher ed.
Awesome.
How's that,
Okay.
Mickey?
So let's talk real quickly on the agenda. I always use a good example to kind of set the foundation, the framework for what we're going to discuss. We're going to look at some best practices on how to communicate with inquiries and with applicants. Then we're going to throw up some real emails, and these will be actual emails I've collected from schools over the past couple of years. The only changes we made to those emails were changing the name of the institution so that they're not out there, and a couple of terms in there, and I'll show them to you shortly so that you wouldn't necessarily be able to understand who they were, where they were kind of referencing something specific. But aside from that, you're going to see some real emails. We'll dissect them. We'll talk a little bit about them. And then I'm going to turn it over to Nick, and he's actually going to take us into his portal of HubSpot, or a demonstration portal of HubSpot we shared, just so you can see how we modify those to make them more personalized, to get rid of some of the boring, generalized content to make it more effective for you in your technology. All right. If you have questions,
I took my first crack at it, Mickey.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I took my first crack at it, so I will need your help and the audience's help to kind of polish those emails off, I think. So that'll be exciting.
Absolutely. And as you have questions, if you're listening, you have questions, shoot them in the question pane. Either Nick or I will see them, and we'll stop and pause and respond to them. And if you have ideas or disagree with a suggestion that Nick or I make, let us know so that we can kind of address it. There is not a single uniform way to go about it. I just have general ideas and tactics and strategies I've used, and with clients to kind of make these emails more personal. And I'll start here with my case study here, and I'll just share with you a little insider information here that this did not become a part of this presentation until about 45 minutes ago, because I'm going to share with you an email I got from inbound.org that I thought, when I saw it this morning, I was like, wow, this is a karma here, because they sent the email to us right at the right time to get it into this presentation. It was awesome. So this is an email from inbound.org, and this is basically a community forum of people who believe in and use the inbound methodology in their marketing and sales, where they can ask questions and share information. And I want to share a little bit about you, Ed Fry, who is the manager of this program and this site. His goal is to send me and all the other users at inbound.org information so that we're connecting, that we're on the site, that we're writing posts, that we're reading the posts and sharing and commenting. Because if we're not there, then inbound.org doesn't exist, and he doesn't have a job. He needs to get us there to convert. That's his goal. He could send me weekly emails that are generalized newsletters, and he does do that. And this is a sample of what I get from them on a weekly basis. However, what I got from him this morning was this email. Hi, Mickey. Harry's posted an interesting question asking whether it's still beneficial to have a personal website when social media makes it so easy. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments to help get the discussion started. His goal is pretty much the same as it was with this email. But here's a great example where he personalized it and he made it mean something to me. Aside from, hi, Mickey, everybody's doing that. But then now he's bringing in a specific topic that someone else has started, given me the link, and he has asked me to contribute in a way that if you didn't know and I didn't tell you that he sent this to everybody and you just saw this email, you're going to believe that Ed sent this to me on a one-on-one basis. And that's the goal of your automated emails. How can you get, and not all of them, because you still are going to use emails like this or other automated emails, but you want to try to make some of them appear from this, because especially if you're sending an email that's from an admission rep, an admission counselor, whatever your title for that role is, if it's from them, you want it to appear, the prospects to read it as though it's written directly for them. And it's not always easy to write those emails in a personalized way, but it is absolutely something you can accomplish when you do it carefully. And Ed has mastered this. So I shot him an email this morning. And by the way, Ed and I don't know each other. We've never met face to face. Okay. So I shot Ed an email this morning. Say, hey, I love this email. Can I use it? He said, absolutely. And I'm going to be writing a blog post about this and using a couple other examples coming up just from reading this email. But I thought it was a great example of how you begin to customize, personalize your emails on a one-on-one basis. Otherwise, it becomes a marketing tactic, it becomes a sales tactic, and people don't engage with that. They engage with people writing to them. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. So one of the questions I always ask schools and clients and prospective clients, as you think about your recruitment process, what's your goal during the recruitment process? And I honestly can't remember someone not giving me this answer in some form, that the goal of the process is to build a relationship, that they're all about building relationships, and that's what their goal always seems to be. And so the question in recruitment is how, when you've got this long line of people trying to get involved or get information about your program and connect with your program, how can you build a relationship with all those people at the same time? And the way we've gone about that is using our technology, using email, especially automated email, that can kind of keep them engaged and keep those folks moving through the process. But when you're sending the types of emails we're going to show you, and almost all of you will be to some form or extent. I've not found schools sending emails to me like this. Okay. I don't get that. So if you want to get there, how do you do that and still keep things on a personal level? So I'm going to use the funnel imagery here. I did a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and I used the funnel there as well. But everyone kind of, hopefully, about enrollment funnels and how they work. And in this particular instance, I'm using 4 stages, 4 different levels within the funnel. I'm not suggesting at any point that your recruitment cycle is 4 stages. That's not the case. You might have 4, you might have 5, you might have 10. I'm not sure. It's going to be up to you to kind of determine that. But I'm just using 4 stages here because I went and looked online to kind of look at the different stages of relationships and friendships. And lo and behold, there's not a great standard uniform way to classify relationships. I found 25 stages of a relationship, and I can't imagine who came up with 25 different stages of relationship, but hey, somebody did. So I'm going to use the Institute and Basics. It's actually Institute and Basics in Life Principles. Their model here for relationship funnel, because they take relationships and divide them in 4 stages. And I think those are kind of important, and we'll relate those to an enrollment funnel. So stage 1 is an acquaintance. Stage 2 is a casual friendship. Stages 3 and 4, close friendships and intimate friendships. Now, we're not going to go into too much information and in-depth analysis here on the 3rd and 4th stages for today's webinar, because I simply don't have enough time, and Nick doesn't have enough time to get into all of those. We're going to go really focus on the first 2. But if you want to overlay that to your recruitment funnel, we want to kind of compare those. So at the acquaintance level, if you think about meeting someone for the first time, you're going to go into these basic questions. What's your name? Where do you work? Do you have kids? All these basic general types of questions, all the way down the deepest level, where you become genuinely invested in helping that friend's ability, helping them what they're doing, and really trying to help them achieve their goals. That's what an intimate friendship does. And so if we compare this to a recruitment funnel, all right, let's say we have a new inquiry, we have an engaged inquiry, we have an applicant, and we have an enrolled student. What you're trying to do is align your emails and your contact, your communication, when you're asking questions and giving the help based on where your prospect is in the funnel. If you started with a new inquiry and started asking questions like they might be asking of an intimate relationship, then you're not really connecting. That's sharing too much information. You're getting too deep and too personal. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to understand where they are and how connected they are with you and with your institution, so that they don't feel like you're pushing into their personal lives. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. So acquaintance is your new inquiry. But before you even get to this point, you need an introduction. You've got to have some way that you can connect with a prospect. And that is actually your inquiry form, right? Your inquiry form is the person that's going to introduce you to the new prospect, your new inquiry. And as you think about a relationship, when someone introduces you, hi, Nick, here's Susan. And that usually follows with a statement about Susan, so that you have a little bit of information as you and Susan begin to talk. And that's what your inquiry form is doing. But what you want to think about is it really doing it in a right way? And one of the things I try to do with schools is add and modify questions on the inquiry form, so that you're getting more than name, street address, phone number, email address. They want this particular program, and they heard about you where. I want to get more than that because that doesn't give you any context. So I might ask a question such as, please select the best fit. Or it says something like, I am, select the best fit. And it might say, a veteran. I am I am a high school junior. I am laid off. I am a single parent. You pick the options. But once you start asking questions like that, then you can use that information to really customize and tailor content for that person. I might also ask a question such as, which of the following questions is most important to you as you're choosing your educational program? And it might ask, how can I afford this? What's it like to be an online student? Can I really get this done in 2 years? Something like that. So when they tell you what their most important question is, you know what to answer first, rather than trying to dance around and try to figure out what it is they want and what it is they don't want to know. If they tell you what their most important question is, you can begin answering it for them right away. And by the way, when you do that, and when you ask that question, you give that answer, you just beat every other school to the punch, because you know what they want, and the other schools don't, because they don't ask that question. I don't know that I've seen that question on more than 2 inquiry forms, and I've probably looked at over 400 in the past few years. So, questions you might begin asking at this new inquiry level. We just want to go to the basics. Let's start understanding about them as a person, their name, their family, their job, just in a way so that they give you a little bit of information so that they engage. If you go too deep, you're going to give them too much information. You're going to pry too deep, and they're not going to reply and respond. So we want to keep it short, keep it basic, but in a way that they respond. And when I say respond, that might mean reply. That might mean click in that email, filling out another form, beginning an application even. It's not always the goal, but you want to get them there and start building that comfort level, building the trust, because without trust, there is no relationship. And then that's going to hopefully get them to this engaged inquiry level if they haven't already applied. And that's where we're going to start really talking with them to understand their goals and applying their goals and how they're going to achieve those goals through your program, through your institution. How can they get there? How can you help them get there? But you've got to get them to that point to know what it is those goals are to do that. So, all right, Nick, I'm watching the time. I haven't forgot. So before I show the emails, I always like to show just a little bit of data here to kind of whet the appetite. So as we look,
I'd also like to encourage our attendees to drop in. Sorry, Mickey. I just want to encourage our attendees to drop in any questions or comments they might have from what they're seeing you share here, Mickey, in the questions panel of GoToWebinar. The audience is a little bit quiet right now, but we're all community professionals, so I encourage folks to ask questions and share comments, and I'll filter those through to Mickey when relevant. So go ahead, Mickey.
Yep. So just some stats. All right. Email messages are 6 times more likely to get a click than a tweet. I get questions a lot about social and how much should we focus on social. And I'm not saying not to do it, because it is important and it will grow in its importance. However, you don't want to put all this time in social and neglect your emails. A great example of neglecting your emails, and I'll just ask you this. How many of you have been using those basic first emails that go out to students? How many are using the same ones for more than 2 years? I'd love to know that. And it's okay if you say yes. Nick, don't call them out if they say yes, or who they are. If they identify, let's not call them out.
I certainly won't.
But
no names will be mentioned.
Yep.
But we do have an attendee says they're not using the same one. So luckily, some folks are keeping it fresh. It's okay. Admit it if you still got the same ones.
So I conduct a secret shopper study every year, and I actually monitor schools, and we're getting ready to launch in May the study for 2016. And during that, we will follow for 6 weeks how schools are recruiting. And I will tell you that there's at least one school, there's probably more, because some schools are in it 2 or 3 years in a row, some were in it 3 years ago and will be in it this year. And what I find is there's at least one, and I think there's actually 3, that were in it for 3 consecutive years, and I got the same emails for 3 consecutive years. And I don't mean that in a sense that, well, what if an inquiry inquires 3 different times over 3 years? It's not necessarily that, but content changes. The way we communicate and the way we engage changes over time. And if you're still sending that same email, you're not probably assessing how well it's working. That tells me that, because if you were, you would be changing it and modifying it some way. There's always room for improvement. So I know that that's not happening. But if you're writing the same way as you were 3 years ago, you're behind. Another great stat: an email is 5 times more likely to be read than a Facebook post. I see a lot of folks thinking, oh, I'm going to get all this great hit and traffic from social. And you should hopefully get some traffic from social, but you shouldn't get anywhere near as much traffic from social as you're getting in your email if you have a good prospect pool. All right. This is the final stat I'll share with you. This is my threshold. When I look at a basic email benchmark, and this comes from some HubSpot research, they do a kind of a state of inbound and where it assesses all different types of industries. But if we hone in on the education industry specifically, of those institutions, 60% of them who indicated that their revenue was declining said that their open rates for their emails were under 15%. These would be for your marketing messages. And of those same institutions, those who said they had increasing revenue, 60% of them who said they had increasing revenue had open rates above 15%. So one of just the very basic thresholds I look at is, where's that open rate, especially for those first 2 or 3 emails that you have going out. Now, I'm not saying if you're at 15, 16, or 17%, be happy and stop, because that's not where we want to be. But if you are below 15%, then you really have some work to do. All right, so now let's dive into some emails here. All right, take a look at, I just want to take a moment and read this email. All right, stop. I gave you plenty of time to read that email. So one of the first things, hopefully, that stood out to you was the length of this email. In fact, it was a challenge to get this email to fit on the screen. I had to make it really wide. I had to reduce the font size, all in an effort just to get the thing to fit on the screen. And I don't think it completely fit. I may have cut off another line or two there at the bottom. But let's go ahead and point this out. So, all right, 5 seconds. That's my other big stat. If you don't get to the point of that email to your prospect in the first 5 seconds after they open it, you've just wasted all the time you spent writing that email and sending that email or building that workflow or putting in the logic to make sure the email gets in their hands. Because 5 seconds is actually more than what most folks will give you. It might actually be down to 3 seconds. I've seen some data that says 3 seconds, okay? So you want to be sure that whatever you open with gets their attention and says why they need to keep reading this email. So now let's really look at this email. I want to point out a few things. Aside from the link, this is an email we got from a school where we one of our schools in our secret shopper study where we inquired for the MBA. Just going to point out a few things. Again, this is for an MBA. The first bullet point, and I love Awesome University. It's a great school. It's awesome. But Awesome University, it's a brick and mortar school from way back when, hundreds of years ago. It was the first private school. All these facts that we put out. This is not a factor in the top 15 points of consideration for a graduate student. They don't care what year you're founded. They might care if you were founded 2 years ago versus 20 years ago or 100 years ago, but not to the point that that's going to be the first thing you point out about your school. Awesome University is ranked by U.S. News and World Report as a Tier 1 school in the top 100 for regional universities in whatever region. And then that little next line, rankings are based on undergraduate programs. Well, why in heck are you putting that in there when this is for a graduate program? Does that matter for a graduate student that the undergrad programs are ranked well? In fact, it might even bring the grad student to start questioning for a moment, well, why didn't they mention the grad programs? Are they that poor that they're not ranked at all? And at the end of the day, unless you're an Ivy League school, or your competitors are the Ivy League schools or the really high-end schools, then I don't know how important that is for you to be putting in your first email. I don't know that I would ever have that in my first email. You would have to really twist my arm to convince me to put that bullet point in there. The second bullet point is the one about accreditation. It might be one I reference in the first email, but probably not in the first email. And here's how I'm going to differentiate what I talk about in the first email. What are the first 3 things those prospects are asking you? If that is not what you're talking about, then you're not talking about the right stuff. You want to be answering the questions they have. And I always recommend, especially even on our student service side of the training we do, is you want to answer their questions before they ask it. So when you know they've inquired and you know what the likelihood of their questions are, then answer them before they ask. And better yet, you might know what their questions are if you put that one question on your inquiry form. What is most important to you? So you can begin answering it. Let's see, what else? Oh, these yellow highlighted question marks. I just inserted those because that was actually a blank. In this standard template, they forgot to put that email address in the mail merge and that extension. It just wasn't there. So I will tell you, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's not very rare for me to find errors like that in email. And I don't mean a typo. Typos aren't great either. I don't come down too hard on typos because I'm one of the worst people out there to come down on that, because I have typos and it's one of my personal flaws, right? But this type of error is significant. Email me at where? I don't know. Well, that's because I left it blank. Here's another email. Let's take a moment to look at this one. Hello, Stephen. Thank you for your interest in
And Mickey,
yes, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. I also would request that our colleagues here, if they're catching anything in these emails, to go ahead and put it into the question panel, and I can throw that into the mix here. So
awesome.
As Mickey goes through this, if anybody spots other things that they also like or don't like about these messages, as Mickey does this next dissection, please feel free to drop that in the question panel as well, and join the conversation. Go ahead, Mickey.
Yep. So one of the things, and I didn't even put an arrow for this, but what you're seeing here, anywhere it's underlined here, was a link. This is too many links. It's too confusing. When you're writing up your emails, what you want to do is break them apart and focus on one or two at most calls to action. What is it you want them to do with your email? What is their next step? It's got to be clear and it's got to be concise. When you start putting all these different links, it begins confusing, and there's no real way to assess what is and what isn't working, other than the fact that it's probably not working. Other than that, I want to point out a couple of things here. Accelerated format. The year consists of 6 8-week terms and 6 possible starts per year. Applicants transferring an associate can actually finish the degree in 8 to 12 months. If you don't have any other credit, you can finish in as little as 3 years. So I'm just going to use old school marketing information or lessons here. There's what we call features and benefits. Features are what you offer. The benefit is how it helps the prospective person. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and still today, you want to focus more on the benefits than the features. And what this email does is say, here are the features. It needs to say, here are the benefits. So the benefit is the speed with which someone can complete this program. All right, not that you have 6 8-week terms. And how many numbers can you write out in letters in the matter? So you've got 6 8-week terms and 6 possible starts. That's just confusing. It's not going to hit home. No. They want to, if it's accelerated, what does accelerated mean? You can finish quickly. That's all you want to get across. The other thing, let's see next. 1 class per evening format. Okay, we can talk about features and benefits again here, but what I might point out here is the difference between full-time and part-time, and how fast you can go is a better way to go about this. Also, accelerated format, 1 class per evening, online format, credit for prior learning, affordable education. Way too much for 1 email. Focus on 1. Pick one of those things. And when I hear schools say, well, I don't know what else to email, I don't want to keep hounding them with email and trying to push them. You're not necessarily out pushing them. And if you don't have content, the reason you don't have content is because you've put it all in 1 email or all over 2 emails when it could be 6 or 7 emails spread out over time. Affordable education, that last bullet point. All right. Graduate or undergraduate, doesn't matter. One of the first questions everyone's going to have, and even if it's on traditional, it's going to be the prospective students' parents are going to ask this, how much is this going to cost me? And if that's one of the first questions you have, and yeah, it might be in this first email, but you've buried it so deep that maybe, I don't know, if you send it to 100 people, we're lucky if 10 actually read all of this, and you'll be lucky then if 2 of them get to that point and really take any information home from that. That's a waste. Affordable education is important, and if one of the big selling points for your program is value and cost, then don't bury it here. It's way too deep in this email. And then on top of that, let's point out here, hey, here's our tuition rate, but if you enroll this spring, you can save $100 per credit for the first year. So that's going to be $600 to $800 in savings. That's the call to action here. That's what's going to really trigger someone to apply, and you buried it so deep that no one's going to see it. You wasted that offer in this email. So if that's what's important to you in this email, then that's what this email needs to be about. Oh, and by the way, this email is so long, it goes beyond this. So when you see Nick's version, you'll see it maybe a little more. I'm not sure, but I couldn't even fit it on the screen. Way too long. Those
Definitely too long, Mickey.
I don't know how else to say way too long in another term. I should have got out my thesaurus.
It's called one slide. If you can't put it on a slide in PowerPoint, your email's too long. I think it's the same.
And I'll just also use this. I use this analogy a lot. Look at it in your Gmail and your Outlook clients, whatever you're using. Look at the email. If you have to scroll, it's too long. And if you already have your email box really wide, then that doesn't count. Make it narrow, and if you have to scroll, it's too long. Because if you're scrolling on your laptop or your desktop in Gmail or Outlook or GroupWise or whatever it is you're using, think about what the prospect's doing when they open it on a mobile device. Because they're opening it, over 50% of emails at this point are being opened on a mobile device. And whatever you're scrolling there on your desktop laptop is 3 and 4 and 10 times longer on that mobile device. All right. So, Nick, let me turn this over to you. Let's get here. I've got a
sure thing, Mickey.
All right, change presenter. I'm gonna let's give you control.
Yep. I'll turn on my webcam too if people can handle that. Hello.
Awesome webcam.
Yep.
I'm jealous. My laptop is. I don't have an external webcam, and my computer's docked, so I can't show. I can't turn on my webcam.
Well, I've got that Italian talk with my hands thing, so that's why I like to visually, because I might be doing some of this and things like that. So I'm trying to show my screen. Can everybody see my screen? You should be seeing an image of the HubSpot software. We've got a demo portal up. So can you see that, Mickey? And
I see it. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So folks, just to give you some background here is Mickey and I spent some time going through these emails in a Google Doc, and I took a lot of his feedback and added some of my own, and then I attempted to use this marketing automation software platform that both Mickey and I prefer to work with clients on, which is called HubSpot, and we're both well versed on it. I just want to show you how you can use technology like this once you know what you want to improve for those emails. You can take it even further with the right technology and software. So it's not important that you all are veteran HubSpot users or that you even understand all of the words or the interface that you're looking at. It's really just important that you look at the content of the email that I'm about to show you, and that the strategy makes sense for you. All right, so with your permission, Mickey, I'm going to jump into that first email, and folks are welcome to ask questions. And Mickey, I'd love your advice on how I did here based on the guidance and the feedback you gave me here.
Absolutely.
All right, so we looked at Stephen's, the message of Stephen, really long, very, school-centric, reads like a bit of a brochure, so I attempted to address that. So crafting the first email. First thing I'd like to point out to people is that when you use software, it allows you to really think strategically about how each piece of your funnel, each message is doing its job. So there's no stats here. This is a demo portal. The school doesn't exist. But letting you know that over time, not only can you write better emails, but you can measure how they're performing and how they're doing. But let's get into this, and I'll show you how you can easily craft the email. So we have a quick question here from Tina. And this is one, Mickey, you just might want to keep in mind for the Q&A section. I'm going to assign it to you. Yeah. It sounds like actually a good one for us to address right after we're done going through the demo here. Yep. So first of all, I want to point out to everybody here who we made it from. It's from a real person. So it's just me at my marketing agency, IMR Corp right now, but we would want to be from you folks, from an actual person, because that's who we expect to receive emails from, not no reply ad or anything like that. Subject line, there's always different schools of thought here. I just want to point out what I did here is I added in for the subject line, I put looking to connect with, and then I put in this is a sign of a token, so the ability to personalize. So I can pull out of our database that applicant's, the inquirer's first name. And then about Awesome University, and then I also just wanted to point out here, really just for demo's sake, I don't know if I would necessarily always do this, is that I can actually pull in the person's interest. So if we capture the person's first name from the inquiry form and the academic program that that contact was interested in, I could pull both in and have them appear in the subject line of the email. And based on some of the research that Mickey looked at, we know that subject lines with the person's first name in them get opened more often than emails that do not. So that's why I made sure I added at least the subject line. I went a little further and decided to add something else customized to try to get their attention. I also added in, you have the ability to specify what the preview text is going to be. By default, if you don't have the ability to customize this preview text, it's going to just be the first sentence of your email, which might not always be the strongest. So the preview is like if you're using Gmail or other things, like what are those first few words that show up? So I tried to use sort of some conversational things as requested with some next steps, let's talk. Again, trying to warm it up and make it a little bit more human. Now let's get into the body of the email. Again, remember what we were this first email, very university focused, a lot about us. In my email here, what I tried to do, folks, is I tried to make it a little bit more about the phone call itself. Since, as Mickey said, the main goal of this email and this whole flow is to get the person on the phone with the enrollment advisor. I made this the whole focus and drive of the email that I sent to them. So first of all, showing that everything in green is something that we can pull out and automatically merge in or add in, if you will, from the contact's information, the information they put in that form. Everything in blue is things that we're pulling in from ourselves, our own enrollment teams, our own people who own this lead. I can pull this information in. So now I can say, hi, whoever the first name is, congratulations on taking your first step. This is pulling the name of the enrollment officer that this email would be being sent on behalf of. Your enrollment advisor for, and then you can drop in the specific academic program. I didn't have to do that, but I wanted to show you that then if I did that, I can now write one email for all of the different academic programs potentially. You don't have to do that. I'm just showing you the power and the capability of using common software like available in HubSpot. Before diving into the nuts and bolts of the program, I'm basically saying I'd like to get to know every student, personalize their experience as much as possible. So I'm justifying kind of the value and why I would ask for a phone call. Then I go for it. Would you be available for a brief phone call with me over the next couple days so we can get to know each other and your needs a bit more? Per Mickey's advice, I tried to personalize it, make it a little bit more informal because we're a little bit more informal at times in emails. We're not addressing an audience from a podium. It's two people talking to each other, building a relationship. Then instead of bullet points selling the university, I'm actually doing bullet points to kind of market the phone call opportunity. So if we get on the phone, we will talk about your personal and professional goals. What's attractive to you about Awesome University's online programs? And will an Awesome University education bring you value after graduation? And of course, answer any questions you have about the application process. So versus instead of we are, this is you. We're going to talk about you and what you need. And then again, tried to make it sound very conversational, like I was writing this email today. In regards to that last bullet, I've already sent you the PDF of the insert the academic program of interest. If you didn't receive it, you haven't had a chance to download it, click here. So that's the first chance for them to click through and do something, is to maybe go to the PDF, which we know is still good if they look at the PDF to show some engagement. Not as good as the phone call though. So now I have to actually go for the phone call, and I want to offer it in a way that I can measure it in my software. So if I just said, give me a call at this number, how many of us today have software that can track how many inbound phone calls you received as a result of people seeing that phone number from your email marketing software? Probably not many based on my experience. So I'm going for a clickable thing. It's also a much more scalable thing to have them go to a sign-up page where my enrollment officer has their availability of time for phone calls such as these. They can display that availability. It's self-service, and I can pick out the time that works best for me, and it can send it out to that person. That's not included in the HubSpot software, but there's many online bookable services. Some of them are free. Some of them are only 10, 20 bucks a month. But that's what I'm demonstrating here, is that you can set this up through a variety of services, but you'd want them to ideally click through and book a time if possible, because we can measure if they clicked on that when we look at the email's performance. That's it. Looking forward to hopefully connecting. Congrats once again. And then, again, not best regards, because I think that's very standard. That's very formal, Mickey, right. I put talk soon. And then I added a PS because, again, there's good data from HubSpot that shows that the PS actually does it's the last thing people look at. So if they have read this email and they're not clicking yet, if they haven't taken action and already moved on, I want to give them one last chance. Let's go for the PDF. I'll take a click on the PDF if I can't get the phone call. So that's the email, Mickey. I don't know if we have any tips or advice.
I love it.
from folks.
Um, so yeah, I really like the email. The only critique I would give is it's still a little long, um, but it's shorter. And I think most important that you turned the entire conversation around so that it's focused on the prospect rather than the university. And I don't think I hit home enough when I was going over that email on the PowerPoint is that realistically from this school, what this school is trying to accomplish in that email is to get the phone call. That's the goal. So if you're doing everything else beyond that and talking about everything else, you're not giving them reason to set up the call. And if the goal, if that's your goal, you're not trying to get them to apply. You're not trying to get them to enroll. You're not trying to do anything other than, I want to talk to you. I want to give you value so that you're willing to talk to me. Let's set that up. And obviously, this is coming from a school who doesn't have. Some schools will have it in their comp plan. They're going to call regardless, and that's fine. This school doesn't have that, so you've got to give them reason so that they're giving you permission. You're asking them to give you permission to talk to them on the phone, which is a big hurdle for so many prospects in today's world, especially on the grad side and the adult side. They don't want to have that call. The trad side, when they're filling that out, they don't know. They don't. They're novices. They're real green at this. But the others, they're very hesitant to that. And so what we've done, so that they're willing to give Nick permission, is he turned those bullet points around, so they're all about why it's of what value he's going to give that prospect. Why do they want to?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can see that as a prospect now a little bit more clearly, and I'm more willing to kind of give you that. And I see much better responses from these types of emails.
And I feel the message is so much, the story is so much better, Mickey, even in my own head as the enrollment advisor, is that I'm calling, I am reaching out to provide value, not to serve my own ends, but to serve that person. And that's what the message has been. And that's what I can say if I reach out on the phone, even if you do call out to people, you can say, as I had said in my email, I'm here to talk about you. Yep. So the whole thing can really line up very well. Mickey, I'd also like to quickly point out before we move on to the next email that we have the ability to pick a template. And when you get into some of the automation software, it's very tempting to do a highly stylized template, to do something very complex or fancy. I chose the most basic email template that was available. It's totally stripped out of any sort of styling because, once again, a person-to-person email, just like your inbound.org example you showed at the beginning, Mickey, shouldn't come with a big banner or some wrapping on it. Yep. What you do have the ability to do in this program and many others is the ability to customize your signature. So what this does is when this gets loaded, the person who is assigned to this contact, this lead, it would drop their signature in there. It would say, Nick Sal, with my bio image and my role, and you could add the university logo, perhaps. So just letting you know, if you want to get a little bit graphical and add some imagery, do it around the signature with your bio picture, the logo at the bottom. That's where people still expect that, even from one-to-one emails today.
Yep. Real quick, Nick, Tina had a good question. She was asking about the calendar services. Which services do you like using for inquiries to schedule a phone call? I don't know if you have any that you use. I use one called youcanbook.me. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything. If you've received any emails from me and my signature, it says there's a little link that says schedule a meeting for me. If you click it, it'll take you there. That synchronizes with my Gmail calendar. It knows what I have available. I set the parameters that I start from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day are my hours, and then it looks to see what I have already booked in Gmail, and it'll show you what's left in there. I can set up buffers around calls and appointments so that if I need 30 minutes before or after so that I don't get overbooked, you can set all that up all within there. And then when someone clicks that link, it just takes them to a little basic form. You ask what you want on there. They hit submit. You get an email. The calendar or the appointment goes directly in my calendar, and it's there. That's, and again, there's free and paid version. I know there's calendar.ly is another one. If you have the CRM side of HubSpot, they actually have built one in there now. And I've actually started to migrate over to that one since I use HubSpot. But again, there are multiple ones out there. And I think I would look at your own work email client that you have and then try to find the calendar tool that will best support that. So, for example, I have a client who uses Novell and GroupWise for their calendar, and there's very few that integrate with that. So I would say let's find one that integrates, and that's how you might be your choosing point.
Another question I think is relevant here, Mickey, is do you think it's important to be consistent with who the emails are being sent from? We have 2 enrollment advisors. If the email is sent from one, but the other calls, will the prospect really care? Your opinion, Mickey?
They may. So I would try to reference that and try to find a way to build that in there. So the email might say this is who I am, this is why I'm reaching out, and this is why we want to have a call. Either I or my I don't know, my partner in crime. I'd probably label it somewhere. Somewhere there's a little bit of humor somehow in there, make it personal. But my colleague Christy may be reaching out to you, so we can learn about goals. So you're still asking about them, and you, instead of just saying I want to know this, we love to know, we want to know. This is why we're here, and then I might then break up and have an email from me and one from Christy, and kind of break that up and kind of stagger those out over time, so that they're used to both names, so they're building the
Yes.
relationship with both of you.
Yes.
There was
I
another
think it's a
question.
very good point.
Yep. Do you know if you can?
There was,
Yep. You can book.me. I think it does sync with Outlook. I'm not 100% confident in that one. I have to look it up and
yeah,
see. Um,
yeah. I'm sure their websites will help describe that as well.
those are all good questions. Thank you both, Christy and Tina, for asking.
Yes, yes. Please do keep them coming, and we still have Tina's bookmarked because
Yep.
she's
I'm
asking
going to come
about
back
the
to
CRM.
Tina. Ask a question about CRMs, um, using
Yeah.
CRM
So I think,
for campaigns. So we'll
and
get.
Mickey, I think we had agreed that we're going to move on from email too, just for the sake of time. I just want folks to see how how again I'm reiterating again to book time to speak on the phone. We took those emails and made sure that those links are there throughout. And then I want to show you really the third one, because that's where we did something really different.
Yeah,
So
we
if you
were going to
remember
try
the,
to do. We were going to try to do 3 emails, and we realized yesterday when we were kind of looking through this, there just wasn't going to be enough time to do 3. So, email 2 was
right,
really a follow up email to the first one, saying I want to set up a call, and the key I'll just share is he's pulling that up. If you're going to send a second email out, if someone doesn't respond and book a time with you, and you're going to send a second email out, what you want to be sure you're doing in that second email is don't send the same email and don't give the same reasons. It needs to be different, because if those
right,
reasons didn't work the first time, why the heck are they going to work the second time? So be
that's
sure that you're
correct.
differentiating, and that might also be a time, so that when you're looking. So, Christy, you asked about using 2 different people. That is also a great opportunity to infuse both different names. So, if I sent out the first one and it didn't work, then the second email might be from Christy to try to see if that could work.
That's correct. And what we were able to do is to be able to check the performance of those different emails. So we can see perhaps either it's a certain person's name even, maybe it's the fact that you switched the emails, that we can actually check and see that. I think that's what a lot of marketers can really benefit from, is looking at the whole sequence of communications as a whole and see is each email doing its job, and if not, why not, and being able to spot those early and drilling down. So for the sake of time, I'm going to dive right into this, Mickey.
Yep.
I wanted to bring everybody's memory back. Do you remember email number 3? Mickey couldn't even fit it on one PowerPoint slide, and look at all these things that he just pointed out here that were just way, way overwhelming and way off about it. So what I decided to do is, to Mickey's point, there's way too many things for a person to do. They're starved for choice. There's too many things to have to consume, too many choices. First of all, it's hard for me to make a decision as the user, the person receiving this, and it's hard for this university to measure if the email is effective. Effective at what? Offering them which of the 10 things that we offered. So what I decided to do was to just go with one decision and to play my strongest card. If this is the 3rd email now, which in our configuration here would only be going out if we didn't get the initial phone calls. The first 2 emails were about, let's get them on the phone. If they have not gotten on the phone, it's going to automatically trigger email 3. And the fact that we even need to send a 3rd email means the first 2 invites to the phone call were not effective. So I'm going into a different direction, and it's going to be about the informational session, the video, because I saw that they had an informational session and a video in that email. So I said, I'm going to play that, because we know for a fact that video is the most shared piece of content on the internet today. It gets the highest click-through rates when it's featured in an email. So I said, I'm going to go for it. So if you look at the subject line here, I have it come from me. So I've chosen in this case, Christy, to stick with the same name and the same person over time, trying to build that relationship. And then also I put the subject line is video for you, first name, awesome you. Everything applicants want to know in less than 5 minutes. So I personalize it to their name, promise a video, and promise it's not going to take a lot of time to do. In my preview text, I figured the first thing I want them to see is that this is the 3rd time I've emailed them. Oh, goodness, right. Those other 2 emails from them are buried in my inbox. I'm ignoring them, and they're noticing that. So I'm kind of going for that personal touch, but then also still promising I'm not trying to be like passive aggressive about this. I'm saying I want to help you. So I'm offering this video, check it out. So let's get past that. I wrote that in, and then I wrote this, wrote this email in here. So I just wanted you to get a sense of how easy it can be to craft and create emails with simple template here. I can make this image, which is actually a link to the video. I could make it larger, I could make it smaller, whatever I want to do, very user-friendly. So again, I just acknowledge the amount of time that's passed. It's been a few days since you first reached out to us. I've been looking to hear back from you regarding the one-on-one phone call to talk about your goals. If you could be available for such a call, please click here. Again, clicking to that bookable site. So I'm going to go for that one more time, but it's a little bit more subtle. However, I know our lives can be busy with so many priorities to juggle. A little bit of empathy there. That's why I'm letting you know we have a new less than 5-minute information session video that you can view anytime, along with the easy online application checklist. They mentioned there was some sort of checklist that you could get, so I figured I'd throw that in there. Available on our applicant resources page. So that's the first link to the video. Then I show the most interesting, this is a stock image, but I'm saying I'm having it represent the most visually interesting aspect of that video. If you have a video to show, look through the video and say, what is an interesting picture of humans interacting with each other? It's been shown that's one of the most interesting visuals for humans is to see fellow humans. We put that image in there, and that image is also a link to the next step to the video that I want. And then I add a caption, click the image above to watch Sarah talk about her awesome U experience. So I named the person, I mentioned that it's going to talk about the experience, and then to Mickey's point that more than half of these messages are being opened on mobile devices, and a lot of people are going to go, you know, I'm on a subway right now, or you know, I'm on the go, and I'm afraid this won't look good. I make the promise here, it will look great on your mobile too. So I'm inviting them to enjoy the mobile experience and to promise them that if they click, it's going to look good on their phone. So if they're still reading at this point, I figured I'd go for this extra last push. Whatever your needs from an online degree, we probably have a program for you. When you submitted your inquiry form online, again, reminding them that you did this, not us. You pointed out you were, and I'm demonstrating here that you can drop a token that would pull from that person's record, from the database, what they said that they were, what their situation was, what their interest is, what they thought they were the best fit for. So I'm acknowledging that reason. Our online video addresses this area specifically along with other unique benefits. I wouldn't mention that if I didn't design the video to align with the information that we captured. It's actually a pretty important point there, that Mickey made this form field in here that would capture the 4 or 5 common reasons, 4 or 5 common profiles of the average applicant. And then we would design the video ideally to address those common profiles as well, so that the content lines up with the strategy, with how we segment people. So I can say easily, yes, our online video addresses it, otherwise we wouldn't have made the video. It addresses all 4 or 5 of these profiles. Check out the video above and be sure to watch the video to the very end for how to move forward to the next step. So I don't actually need to put all these things that they put in here. This is Mickey's point throughout the entire webinar today, because I need the user to take one decision, to make one move. And once they get onto that page, the video is going to tell them what to do next. The page itself is going to tell them what to do next. Too many people are designing their emails in a vacuum, trying to get the whole deal done, the whole decision done just in one email. Take it one step at a time. Get them to the page, and then let the page take them to the next step. So that's what I've done here, and I'm trying to encourage them to get to the very end, which shows that I've taken the video seriously, and I give them a little carrot. And you can learn one of the best kept secrets about Awesome University's online programs. So I'm promising something intriguing they might learn from the video. So let me know what you think, and then I drop in my standard signature, whoever it comes from. So I'll pause there, Mickey, and I'll take any feedback or comments you might have, Mickey, or from the group.
So I like the video. I love that we're taking this in a completely different direction rather than trying to push a phone call again because they didn't respond and that's not working. We got to find something that will work. We know that video works, and I think the hardest part from someone, you know, if you're designing these emails on your campus, I think the hardest part is knowing that you have a good video and having the patience not to put that as the 12th of the, you know, instead of having 11 things in the first email, adding a 12th being the video. No, you having the patience to wait and using it as the third option because you know people are going to be looking at you know that people are going to be looking at the video and want to watch it. But if you don't push it the first time, you save it to the third, and now you have something unique to offer that third time that might engage them in a way that the first 2 attempts didn't do. And I think that's right. I think probably the best part about that email altogether is that you've held on and
Yeah,
said, here's my trump card. I'm going to hold this to
that's
last
right.
because I know that this, if I can't get you the other ways, this might get you to do that.
It's
Um,
it's the
and if you
strongest
have
piece
other
of content.
questions of things that we haven't talked about, because this is kind of where we're going to start to wrap, but if you have other questions, drop them in.
Yep.
But I want to add something here because you mentioned checklists, and we
Yeah.
didn't use this as an example, but as I'm working with clients, one of the things, if it's automated email about someone's status on their application, so they started it and they haven't finished it, and you've got this checklist of things they need to do. One of the things I like to put in some of those automated emails that are designed to encourage people to complete the process is, list the 5 steps in the checklist, and if they're at step 3, you kind of put a strike through on line 1 and 2 with a little check mark by it and say that it's complete, so they know they've been successful. And then you bold that next step where they need to do next. You might still list steps
Mm,
4 and 5, but the goal of that email isn't to do steps 4 and 5. The goal of that email is for them to do step 3 and not to get
yeah.
confused and try to in this vacuum and say, here's the 12 things you need to do to apply. And if you've
Yes.
done 3 of them, you're still sending the same email that says, here's the 12 things you need to do to apply, even though they've done 3 of them. Show them that they've made some accomplishments and that where they need to do next and what else they need to do to finish, and then differentiate that in your email. So when they finish step 3 and they're on step 4, the next email will have a strike through on line 3 and step 4 is bolded. I think there's always great opportunity to kind of do that. And
Very
that's
clever.
so easy to do. And
Yeah.
I want to take a moment to go back because Tina had a question that we kind of held on here. And this
Yes, I'd
about
like to put you in control, Mickey. If I can give you control, then you can put on that last slide about our contact information, because I know people probably have to run to their next meetings
Yep.
and just want to let
Yep.
folks know how they can
Let's
get in
see.
touch with us.
Slideshow from current slide. Okay. Yep. So Tina's question: if you have a CRM system, we currently use there. She tells me what she's using. Do you recommend using the CRM system to manage campaigns or a separate service? If you're using that particular CRM, most of the time, most schools are using that CRM if it's capable of doing it. If you have a decent CRM, you can build your campaign in there. One of the reasons you want to, a lot of times, build that campaign in the CRM is so that when someone clicks and engages on that email, it puts it in their student or inquiry record and it holds onto it there. I have seen schools use HubSpot on top of their CRM. I have a client who's doing that. I know several other schools who are doing that. It's just a little more costly to do it. There are advantages, I think, to using HubSpot to do that. I don't know, however, that you should be using a less capable system. And this is nothing against like a Constant Contact or Myema or you name the 30 others out there. It's nothing against them. Those are equally powerful. Well, I won't say equally. They have powerful capabilities within them, but I wouldn't use that over your CRM's capabilities for campaigns simply because those don't integrate well. It's much more challenging to kind of get that information back and forth, and you don't want to lose the information, the data that you're getting. Because one of the real advantages of email compared to other forms of communication is your ability not only to engage someone and have them be able to reply back to you, but then you can track all of those interactions, and that's really important in your assessment. So I would try to keep it in the CRM. If you have something like a HubSpot or something that's powerful like that can sit on and you can afford to use both, then you can get a lot more bang for your buck. It's just making sure that they integrate and talk if you're going to use something else. Hope that makes sense.
Hey, Mickey, I'm not seeing the final slide here, so I just want to make sure we got our contact info up there.
I'm sorry. Show my.
Oh, yeah, I'm seeing your slide. I'm seeing the slide that says "Let's correct these emails."
Sorry, that's what you're saying. Sorry, you mean this?
Yes, indeed. So I know that we still have a couple more. We still have a couple more minutes. So we could take a couple more questions, but I did want to make sure people knew how they could connect with us and learn more if they want to.
Okay.
And also to plug that you and I, we had such a great time putting this together, Mickey, that we want to do this again and actually dive deep into the database. How do people set up the database before you even send these emails?
Yeah.
And
so right. So some of that personalization requires you create the right fields, and that's something that we both do a lot. Where you saw those sample fields, the I am or what questions are most important to you. Adding those fields, knowing where to put them so that you can use them in the process to capture the right data, ask the right questions, capture the right data that lets you really personalize information. It's such a critical step. Let's see.
So I would ask of the audience if there's no questions coming to people's mind, is like, what do you think would hold you folks back from looking through your, improving the emails that you send, being a little bit more strategic about the email that you send? Are there any obstacles or things that are holding you back that you'd like to share here because Mickey and perhaps myself, I'm sure, can address it. We've seen it before. And perhaps even your colleagues here on the line might.
Yes.
So if there's any last couple situations or challenges we can address, otherwise I know people may need to jump to other meetings, and that's fine. We are at the end of the program. But Mickey and I will stick around for a few more minutes to definitely address any challenges you might have. You might say, oh, this sounds great, but they don't know what it's like at our institution. And the answer is probably yes, he does. Right?
There's a way
do. You've seen it
every time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did someone raise their hand? Did Christy? Did you have a question? Let's see. Here we go. Questions. Oh, hold on here.
There we go. From Amy, what program do you use for an interactive checklist? So that idea you had was pretty cool, Mickey.
I build that within the CRM that you're using. So if, say, I don't know, say you're using Lucian has a CRM called Recruiter or Slate or TargetX, or even if you're using HubSpot. So if you have where they have the online application built into the CRM, you have automated emails that go out. So basically, you have to know your application process. You need to complete the application. We need a transcript, and we need your essay, and we need a dean or counselor recommendation or something like that. You build those checklists. You know what they are, and then you have to build. Usually, the CRM has the communication piece built in, and I just look at your status. So someone who's completed the application, but we have not received a transcript, is in this list. And if you're in that list, you get this email that says, hey, we've got your application. Next up is your transcript. And I might list the checklist in there when I'm writing the email. And I kind of use that as the tool to go about it. But again, that's all about how you build those right custom fields to kind of make that work. Amy, are you using a CRM?
It looks like she's saying they use TargetX.
TargetX. So with Salesforce, so TargetX is based on a Salesforce platform. If you have that email module in there, I forget what they call their email module. Is it Express or something like that? But if you have the email module, then you're going to pull a list of Salesforce of your applicants based on the stage they are in the application process. And then once you have that list, you send out certain emails to people who fit those criteria. And instead of saying, here's my list of applicants or my list of incomplete applicants, I break it down a step further and just have emails sent to where you are in those little mini lists. It's just further segmentation.
Quick question before we go, Mickey, because I know people probably have to run soon, but this is a great question asked by Megan, which is, our grad directors create their copy, and it's very lengthy. How can I convince them to edit that? I think that's a huge issue. So I wondered, Mickey, what your thoughts might be.
You can say you attended this awesome webinar. There, people were slamming really emails. Second, if you go to my website, you see the blog there, and you can just search the blog for email or find an email where I talk about how to convert emails. I think I have 2 recently in the past month and a half or so about email. And you'll find that I have some data in some of those. Share that, forward it on to them, let them see it. I think that's one way. Let's set up a call together. You and I can set up. We'll strategize on how to address it with them or bring them in on the call. I'll give you 15 minutes time just to sit and critique an email if you want to do that.
I will say that that's something we've really enjoyed being able to do, is to pull Mickey in, because he has such passion and experience working with other higher ed institutions that we've had him been able to organize workshops with our clients to talk to these decision makers about what he's seeing out there from their peers. So it's very effective. I think that's great. Mickey, if Mickey offers it, I think.
Here's an idea. Some folks had to leave, and that's fine. But Nick, what if any of you want, you can. Let me put my email address. I should have put our email addresses up here, Nick. What did I forget? Here it is.
That's probably a good point. Yeah.
Let's go here. Hold on. All right. So I'm just going to type up the email address.
Yep.
Email me. Forward the email to me.
Yep.
And Nick and I will review it. I'll share it with Nick. And we'll give you feedback on the email. How about that? So you can take, if you've got a single email you want to send us, forward one of those sample emails to us, and we will go and review it and provide you feedback on it with some tips that you can have. And if it doesn't make sense, then we'll take it a step further and maybe work with your director or something like that and help. That might be a good way to kind of start it, give you some feedback.
Great idea.
Yep. All right. And if that doesn't work, we'll set up a time and talk. So it's just after 12. I want to respect your time. we'll wrap it up here. You've got the email, you've got our Twitter handles and our links to our website. Just follow up with us if you have other questions. We'll be glad to help. And we want to thank you. I know it always means a lot to see folks joining in for these webinars.
Absolutely.
I greatly appreciate your participation and support. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again at our next event in May when we start looking at some of that data that we want to, how to build the data fields in there to make these personal emails work more for you. So, all right.
Yes, we will definitely be in touch.
Yep. Thank you so much. And we hope to see you again soon. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.